In this tutorial, I'm going to outline 4 ways that you can add additional depth to your characters to make sure not only that they come alive on the page, but also that your readers really connect with them. So first, your characters have to have a want. It's sort of the fuel that propels your story forward. If your character doesn't have something that they're questing towards or be forced into a quest of some kind, then the story will be at a standstill. Wants drive us to act, and acts define us as characters. Now, there is an amazing book, which is actually a non-fiction novel, and it's called The Lost City of Z, but it was recently turned into a movie, so I'm going to use this novel movie as an example to teach how to craft character, because I can hit both the book and movie angle at the same time. In this story, our protagonist, Percy Fawcett, was an explorer who formulated, partially through some mystic methods, some ideas about the existence of a lost city in the middle of the Amazon rainforest. Now, unfortunately, the quest for this goal ultimately cost him his life. The character had such a strong want that he made the ultimate sacrifice for it.
To dream, to seek the unknown, to look for what is beautiful is its own reward. A man's reach should exceed his grasp.
Here, I think this clip does a great job of communicating what we need to do as storytellers. This quote, "A man's reach should exceed his grasp," is taken from a Robert Browning poem, and as storytellers, this quote is something we need to use as inspiration when writing our first chapters or scenes. Just get something down that allows your protagonist to grasp at something, but be sure to place that thing just outside of their reach. This is essential to storytelling because when you're creating your scenes, these scenes here can't be filled with inaction and your character shouldn't aimlessly just wander around. These scenes need to have momentum and they need to have direction, propelling your protagonist into an unknown future. So want not only serves your character and your audience's relationship to that character, but want also serves your story. So in the Lost City of Z, the goal is very simple. Find the Lost City of Z, which is a place that most believe not to exist. After that goal can be established, then all of these scenes here can hang off that goal. Now, you can write all of this down on paper if you want, but you have to organize these details somewhere. So I'm going to use this chapter profile template, which you can follow along with by clicking on the link below. Once you're logged in, you simply need to add a project here and then click over on People and Places in the sidebar. From here, you can add a character, and then once that character is added, you can simply click on this Edit button, and the Character Development Settings panel will appear like this. Now, in my story here, I've plotted the Lost City of Z as an example on my plot visualization page over here. But in order to make this story come to life, I need character. For example, if we zoom in and jump into this scene here, we'll see we're making our way through the jungle. Now, this scene wouldn't exist if we didn't have our initial goal, because you can't make your way through the Amazon rainforest if you didn't have a goal to get there in the first place. Or what about this scene when our protagonist is in the jungle being attacked by a local tribe? Also wouldn't exist without the goal of being there in the first place. So in Scribble here, I'm going to write that my external goal is to find the Lost City of Z. But goals by themselves can feel a bit shallow and two-dimensional if used alone. It would feel a bit like moving a piece from point A to point B. In order to round out our characters, we need, as writers, to understand their needs. Now keep in mind that the characters themselves don't always need to understand their needs, at least not at the conscious level. Our deepest needs often live below the surface of our consciousness and therefore are frequently hidden from us. But as writers, we need to know our characters' needs, at least to some degree. So our character wants to go on an expedition to the Amazon, but why? And this is where things get really interesting because sometimes want and need are aligned, but more often than not, there is a bit of friction there. And sometimes they're even on polar opposite ends of the spectrum. Now, I'll explore the importance of playing with the dynamic between want and need in a few minutes, but for now, let's just focus on identifying the need. In the Lost City of Z, Fawcett knows that he's seen, at least to some degree, by those in the scientific community as a bit of an amateur. He's enthusiastic, but lacks a big discovery. Professionally, he's a bit of an outsider. Other explorers are given much more funding. They have more resources, bigger teams. Fawcett is a bit of an underdog, not only because he lacks the resources, but his methods are also unconventional and border on, if not dive deep into the worlds of mysticism. In academics and scientists, well, they kind of turn their nose up at him because of this. So he feels this need to be respected and accepted within the scientific community, and he's willing to throw a lot of things, including relationships, under the bus to make that happen.
What of your obligation to Mother? And to us? Your family? The family that you've chosen to abandon for so many years.
Jack.
How dare you talk to me like that?
How dare you, Father? You do not think of us. You think of Indians, or Germans, or any other path to glory that you can find.
Jack, stop it. That's enough.
Mother, I will not stop. You have returned a failure. The papers are full of it.
In fact, I think at an even more general level, he has this need to feel proud.
But were you to succeed, such an undertaking could earn you soldierly decoration and even reclaim your family name.
His ability to fearlessly take risk is admired by a lot of people. But whenever searching for the lost city of Z, he comes out empty-handed time and time again. So although he can't be criticized for not trying, his actual contributions have been very little, and this chafes him. He wants to have his work worth something, so he feels shame, where he wants to feel pride and glory. So he wants this respect, this recognition, and he wants to experience a sense of pride. The discovering of something new, which is his want, is really just an attempt to try to scratch this itch, which is his need. And as you can see here, if we focused on want alone, which would be moving a character from point A to B, achieving their goal, it would feel a bit flat. It only comes to life when we introduce this other element, this layer below, which is the character's need. And this leads me to my next point. So now we have our want, which is to find the lost city of Z, as well as our need, which is to earn the respect and acceptance of the scientific community and his peer group and family at large. So over in Scribble, I'm typing in respect and acceptance into my character need field here. Now visually, you need to see these two fields as two layers. Appropriately, one is on top and visible, which the audience will see and interact with. The other is under and generally invisible, especially at the beginnings of stories, and is often something that is more felt than seen, both for the characters as well as for the audience. So what I want to talk about now is how we can create tension between these two layers. It's often the tension between these two layers that eventually makes the theme of this story apparent. The theme being the main takeaway, the idea that the creator of the book or movie or play wanted you to wrestle with in your mind. The idea that they were wrestling with in their minds as they were creating the piece. But we'll talk about theme in another tutorial. Let's just stay on track for now. So here we have these two layers, and they don't always play nicely together. Let me give you an example from a film that was cited in the book Art of Character by David Corbett, which was a movie called Frozen River. So essentially, a mom promises her son's new trailer. That's the goal. This is what will propel the story through the different scenes or chapters of our story. That's what the audience will see, the mom trying to save up to buy this trailer. All of the obstacles she'll overcome, she'll do so for this ultimate want. But her need is different. It's to keep her family together. She just thinks that the trailer is the way to keep them together. But the problem is that her need is elusive to her. She can't really see it. Or if she can see it or sense it, she miscalculates how to reach it. And that's why she puts the target of the trailer in her mind. And remember, we're putting things just outside the reach of our main character, so they can't easily grasp at them. And remember, everything can be designed to scale. Finding a lost world in the middle of the Amazon rainforest is a huge want, but wants don't need to be huge to be engaging and interesting. Your want could be to buy a trailer for your kids. No matter what you pick as your want, obstacles will be introduced which will feel big because of where the character is starting from. In Frozen River, the first obstacle the mother faces as she quests towards this want is the realization that she doesn't have the money to buy the trailer. Now, in order to solve this problem, she gets sucked into some seemingly low-risk illegal activities to come up with the money. But this ends up leading her down a disastrous path of immigrant smuggling, and she ends up losing pretty much everything. Essentially, at the end, her want, which was the trailer, was the very thing which stopped her from achieving her need, which was to keep her family together. And that's one example of how you can create friction between these two different layers. And the same is true in The Lost City of Z. Percy Fawcett sets his eyes on a target, an undiscovered world, a place most people don't believe exists. He begins this journey towards this want in an attempt to satisfy deeper needs. But this choice of target resulted in him never coming out of the jungle, dead or alive. To this day, his body has still never been found. Okay, so the next thing I want to cover is this idea of plotting everything in a quadrant beforehand. Essentially, we want to have an understanding of how wants and needs will play out before we start our story. Now, once we figure out the wants and needs of our character, we can start to plot things out to make our lives as writers easier. We can create a quadrant to determine the final position of this character. Again, this isn't 100% necessary, but it helps dramatically if you're the type of writer who gets lost with direction easily and would rather map some of these milestones out beforehand. So there are 4 main types of endings when we consider wants and needs. Again, when mapping out your story and your characters, I highly suggest that you put this down on paper so you have a central place where you can keep everything. Or if you're a Scribble user, again, all of this is found over in the People and Places link here. Now, happy endings are when characters achieve both their needs and their wants. In The Lost City of Z, a happy ending would be Percy Fawcett coming back alive, having found the Lost City of Z, and earning the respect of the scientific community, his friends and family. In this story, though, this doesn't happen. Next, we have an unresolved ending. Now, in fact, in this quadrant breakdown, we actually have 2, which are here and here. But let's look at this first type of unresolved ending. In this quadrant, our character achieves their need, but not their want. Again, in The Lost City of Z, this would have happened if Percy Fawcett came back alive without finding the Lost City, but maybe have found something else. Not his main target, but something deserving of respect. This is kind of a semi-happy ending. Another unresolved ending is here in this quadrant, where we have the character achieve their want, but not their need. Again, in our case, imagine Percy Fawcett returned home alive and he found the Lost City, but his discovery is largely ignored by the scientific community. He finds himself still without acceptance or respect. Now, this is a bittersweet ending. This is where your protagonist gets what they want, but they don't feel that overjoyed because their need hasn't been met. Frequently in stories, this is where the protagonist, for the first time, often in a cathartic manner, unearths and wrestles with their hidden inner need. And lastly, we have this unhappy ending. This is a tragic ending, where the character neither accomplishes their want or their need. And in the story of The Lost City of Z, this is what we have. Percy Fawcett never came out of the jungle. Now in Scribble here, you can see that we've only just touched on 2 of these fields and this quadrant down here. There is so much more that goes into character. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you can continue on this journey to learn how to create great characters for your story. In upcoming tutorials, we're going to be covering the lie, the ghost, and the character arc, all in more detail. And remember, if you want to use this character profile template or any of the other character development tools you saw in this tutorial, simply head over to Scribble, again, link below, sign up, and then log in. Once you're logged in, you simply need to add a new project and then click over on People and Places in the sidebar, and then you simply start adding characters. So that's all I have for you today. Thanks for stopping by.